From the moment that the pandemic got really bad in America in March 2020 up until now, I've been working remotely for my company. Because of that, I always find myself sitting at my desk just like many of you probably find yourselves doing. If not at a desk, then probably at your dining room table. So I started to wonder, what product could I make so that I can start moving around my house a little bit more, or even start working in places like my bed? And by that, I don't mean doing work for my office, but actually just doing work for myself, like developing my YouTube videos, surfing the internet, writing in my journal, or sketching in my sketchbook. So when I started thinking about it, I figured that a project I could make for myself right now that would be really cool would be a personal desk that's minimally designed. Hey there, I'm Tim and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be designing and making a minimal personal table that could be used in a bed. With that, let's jump into the design of this project, where I'll show you a 3D model of the first iteration and the final iteration of this project. Here's a 3D model of the personal table that I designed with the minimal aesthetic. If I zoom around this first iteration here and I select all of the legs, you can see that there's a total of 4. All of the legs are exactly the same and are now highlighted in yellow. If I zoom into one of the legs to talk about as an example, you'll see at the top of this leg that there are finger joints. Those finger joints will go right into slots that I'll cut out of the tabletop. So if I go into a wireframe view, you'll see it a lot better. Right now, the tabletop is selected and all of the rectilinear forms that you're seeing in yellow are the cutouts that I'm making. When I highlight the actual leg in yellow, you'll see the finger joints and where they would actually slot in. Let me go back to a rendered view where you can see the cherry plywood finish that I'm actually going to be using. For this project, I'll be using a 1/4-inch cherry plywood. Now let's talk about one of the more important parts of the design of this project. When I started designing this, I had an acute angle down here at the leg. Because this table will be used on my bed, I don't want this acute angle, so what I ended up doing was I rounded that corner. Because I rounded that corner, it'll create a soft corner where it won't be sharp enough to puncture through my bed. In fact, I carried that same design aesthetic throughout the entire project, so all of the corners are actually rounded. Now when I go around to this view here, you'll see that I've also included some support bars. These support bars will just help keep all of the legs intact so that they don't splay apart. Those will be glued in place just like every other piece that's being finger joined. These support pieces are actually finger joined into the leg. So the leg has a slot cut out. Let me go back into that wireframe view so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's that rectilinear cutout that I was talking about. Here is the slot, and this piece here is going to be the extra support that'll actually go into that finger joint and get glued. So if I zoom out now and I go back to a rendered view, there was one component that I did not like about this design, and it was this other crossbar. The reason why I put this crossbar in here is because I was afraid that when there's extra weight going down on the top of the table, that it would actually splay out the legs, and then that'll cause it to rotate out and pull the finger joints out of place. I didn't like this here, so I decided to come up with a second iteration that actually became the final version for the design of this minimal personal table. If I go over to that other design, this is what it looks like. I really love the way that it came out because I decided to just cut the entire thing out of one entire piece of plywood. From this perspective here, you can see what I'm talking about, where the plywood piece is one continuous piece instead of being cut into 4 legs. So in this version here, there's actually only 2 pieces that come together as the base. That base still has the cross support that I was talking about, and it has that really beautiful curved top. So that's pretty much the design in a 3D view. Now let's talk about the actual pieces and what those pieces will look like. In the first version, you can see that I actually needed 2 pieces of that crossbar, 4 pieces of the cross bars that go into the legs, and then the tabletop. In this second version here, all I need are 2 of the legs to be cut out because it contains both legs for one side of the table. Then I need 4 of the crossbars to help support those legs. Once those are all in place, I just have the simple tabletop, and that's pretty much the design of this project. So that's my design of the personal table with a minimal aesthetic that I came up with in a software called Rhinoceros. Whenever I develop a 3D model of any project, I always find myself coming up with multiple iterations because I see areas of improvement and I want to apply those to my design. Now that we've gone through the design of this project, The next step is going to be applying paper masking onto 1/4-inch plywood. I'm actually going to be using cherry plywood for this project, and the paper masking is there just to protect the surface of the wood from any scorching and burning from the laser cutter. Once that paper masking is on, I'll put that piece of wood into my Glowforge laser cutter, set up my interface with Glowforge, and then I'll send my design to my Glowforge laser cutter and start the process of cutting every piece for this project. I'm estimating that it'll take about 30 minutes to cut out all of the pieces that I need, and then I'll remove the paper masking and I'll glue all of the pieces together. Once all of the pieces are glued together, I'll use some Odie's oil to finish all of the surfaces of this personal table. I love using Odie's oil because of the smell of it, but also, and more importantly, all of the natural ingredients that are contained within the product. Once I've applied the Odie's oil to the surfaces of the 1/4-inch cherry plywood that I'm using for this project, I'll wait about half an hour so that it has time to be absorbed by the fibers of the wood. Then I'll come back in and buff out the excess oil. After that, the project will be complete. So let's jump into those next steps, and then make sure you stick around to the end of this video so that you can see how this personal table with a minimal design aesthetic came out. And if you're interested in purchasing the digital file to be used in your laser cutter to make a similar project, make sure you scroll down to the description section of this video, where you'll find a link to my Etsy shop where you can purchase this file and use it for yourself. Now let's jump into that next step. So that's how I designed and made this personal table with a minimal aesthetic that could be used in a bed. I really love the way that these rounded corners came out because it really softens the entire project. The reason why I initially had these rounded corners is because I wanted to make sure that in the leg down here, where my table would be making contact with my bed and bed sheet, that I didn't have any acute or 90-degree angles. The reason for that is, when you're laser cutting any 90-degree angles or anything at an acute angle, the laser cutter will get so precise that that corner will become really sharp. Overall, I love how this project came out, and I really want to know what you think about it. So let me know in the comments section below what you think about this project, and remember to support this channel by liking this video and subscribing for more like it.